Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Huddle. I'm your host, Matt Wyman. Alongside me, Brady Schul and Pat McCarthy. How you boys doing tonight?
Doing pretty well. How about yourself?
Doing great.
It's good to be back.
Absolutely.
It's been a long couple of weeks.
Too long.
We've been slacking very hard, but we're back with the season review. Do you guys have anything quick to say before we get started?
It was a good first year of the Huddle. I'm glad you boys could do this, and looking forward to more.
Yeah, I was brought on mid-season, and I was happy to do it every week that we did. Had a great time doing it and look forward to carrying it into the new year. Maybe some big things ahead coming. We'll see. School providing and all that, but
what big things are ahead?
we got some big things coming. They're coming. I can't tell you guys yet, but they're coming. But yeah, I think we should kick it off. Wanted to do a recap before the postseason and kind of just factor in the regular season, since anything can happen in the postseason. We don't want to overreact too much to a big win or a too big loss. So just kind of try to be objective here at the end of the season.
So our plan is to just run through each team, give our season thoughts, and some record predictions that we had and what they ended up being.
Yeah, so me and Brady, if some of you may remember, did our preseason review or our preseason predictions, where we predicted everyone's record and all the division winners. So we're going to start in the Afc East. This is an interesting division this year, and it's been how many years the last the Patriots win it? Pretty ridiculous amount. A lot of years the Patriots win this every year. I actually had the Bills winning this, so I predicted the winner, but I had them at only 10-6, and I had the Patriots come in second at 8-8. They end with 7-9, so pretty close there, not too bad. I only had the Dolphins at 7-9. They obviously won 10 games, but missed the playoffs. I think the Dolphins had a really good year. I think it showed that a lot of the moves that they made worked out in their favor, and I think their future is bright all around, especially with a top 3 pick coming off a 10-win season. I had the Jets at 5-11. They didn't win 5 games, but they were what we thought they were. I thought Darnold would be a little bit more of a factor, but he was out a lot. But pretty much what I had.
Yeah, I actually had the Pats winning this division at the beginning of the year. I don't know why. I just had a lot of faith in Cam and Bill Belichick. I said they'd go 9-7 and win the division. Ended up going 7-9. I had them beating the Bills in a tiebreaker because I also had the Bills at 9-7. Nothing else much to speak of here. I mean, I was pretty off, not gonna lie, on the whole division. But like you said with Miami, I think their future's bright. It's going to be interesting what they do with that number 3 pick. But Brian Flores is a good football mind, and I think it'll be interesting off season for them.
Yeah, like they mentioned, I didn't do the record predictions. I wasn't on the podcast for that part of the season. But yeah, really interesting in division this year. The Patriots dynasty finally comes to an end. Cam Newton is obviously not the starter of the future that they were hoping to get. The Bills rolled in this division. They were obviously the most dominant team, and they are one of the most dominant teams in the NFL. Credit to Josh Allen, Sean McDermott. The defense really came around. If you guys don't remember, we were saying early in the year their defense was really, really struggling. And they turned it around after, I think, the bye week. So they really turned it around. Like you guys said, the Dolphins, great year. Obviously don't make the playoffs. It was just a weird year. 10-6 gets you in a lot of the years. But obviously that wasn't the case this year. They've got Tua, who you guys think is next. That remains to be seen. Hopefully he takes a good step forward in year 2 after a pretty good rookie year, I would say. And then the Patriots and the Jets were 2 bad teams. The Patriots record doesn't really show up, but Patriots had a lot of guys sit out and all that, but those were 2 bad teams to kind of round out the division, and the Jets shot themselves in the foot by missing out on Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting, though, stat I saw was that all the playoff teams this year, only one team had a top 5 quarterback or a top 5 pick as a quarterback, and it's Alex Smith. So it's it's obviously a different league now, and quarterbacks are going earlier and earlier as we keep coming, but you really never know what you're going to get. Even with this guy, it seems to be as sure of a bet as Trevor Lawrence. Moving on to the West, this division went kind of like I thought it was going to go. I liked the Denver a lot better than they ended up performing. I had the Chiefs taking it with the 12-4 record. They obviously won 14 games. I had Denver going 9-7 and making the playoffs. So I was definitely off there. I thought Drew Lock was going to be a lot better and healthier. I guess he didn't play a few games, but and then I had the Raiders at 7-9. Did they finish at 7-9? 8-8, pretty close. I had the Chargers at 4-12. They got 7 wins, pretty impressive. They look good. Their defense was better than I thought they would be without Derwin James. Still not good, but
they traded Desmond King, which
yeah, they could have won a lot. They could have won a lot more games. They could be in the playoffs. Like that's how good of a year that they've had, especially with the emergence of Herbert, which I did not see coming this year. I thought it could happen. I did not see it coming this year. Yeah, so I don't know if I really have faith in the Broncos moving forward. I mean, is Drew Lock the guy next year? I guess we're gonna find out. I think he could be. That's true. Elway did have kind of a man crush on him, but
yeah,
not the GM, but
yeah, pretty similar thoughts for me on the AFC West too. I also had a lot more faith in the Broncos. I said they'd go 8-8, 5-11 was their final record. I was pretty close to the Chiefs. I said 13-3. Like Wyman said, went 14-2. Chargers I had going 6-10, finished out 7-9. But I think this division went as planned. I think the only team, I guess the Broncos and the Raiders were just kind of in limbo on how they would perform. I thought the Raiders looked really good, like early on in the season. They had some really big games, but just couldn't win those games that they absolutely had to win. I didn't have a record prediction for them though, but they did go 8-8. So I was pretty close with the AFC West.
Yeah, this was the Chiefs division, and everyone else was pretty mediocre. I think what we learned from the Broncos is that Drew Lock's not the guy moving forward, in my opinion. I really liked Drew Lock, though. I liked his confidence and all that, but he clearly isn't the quarterback moving forward. The Raiders were fun for a while, though. I mean, that was kind of a fun team. Like, hey, John Gruden and
everyone's like Derek Carr's the future.
Yeah, right. Like Derek Carr was decent for a good part of the year. And
Jacobs tailed off as the year went on.
Right, and then got a DUI the other day, so not the best finish for the Raiders, I guess. But maybe Pat's hot take of the week moving into next season. I think the Chargers win 10 or 11 games next year and make the playoffs. This team,
I don't think that's hot enough for Pat's hot take.
All right, well, anyway, I think they'll threaten the Chiefs for the division.
Okay.
Okay,
there you go. Okay,
Because this Charger team, you look at a lot of the games they play, they were either getting blown out or they only had a few blowout losses, but every game they played was within a possession. They lost so many games, like on a last drive or a missed kick or whatever it is. And with Anthony Lynn getting fired recently, I think this team, if they hire the right head coach, can make a huge stride forward into next season and prove a lot of people wrong because they found their franchise quarterback. They got the best quarterback out of the draft so far in Justin Herbert, and who may be the offensive rookie of the year. So I'm looking forward to the Chargers next year and hopefully making that division interesting in the past few years it hasn't been. So looking forward to that.
Definitely, I could see him making the playoffs this year. I don't know about ousting the Chiefs, but it wouldn't be the crazy. Crazier things have happened. Moving on to AFC North. Right here, I had the Ravens going 13-3 winning the division, which obviously they did not. They finished with 11 wins. And 11 wins, it's second in the division, but they're heating up at the right time and poising to make a playoff run. I had the Steelers making the playoffs in second place at a 10-6 record. They played better this year than I thought they could. Their defense was better than I thought they were. TJ Watt was better than I thought he was. Just Deontay Johnson's better than I thought he was, even with all the drops. He had a phenomenal year. Claypool is way better than I thought he was. I was not high in Claypool coming into the draft or coming into the NFL season. And I had the Browns at 7-9. Obviously, they outperformed that with 11 wins. Making the playoffs also. There's 3 playoff teams in this division, just realized. And I had the Bengals at 3-13, which is they would have finished high. I mean, they were 3 did they finish 3-13? 4-12. Okay, they would have finished a lot higher than that if Joe Burrow didn't, or not a lot higher. They would have won a couple more games, I think, if Joe Burrow doesn't get hurt. So he really, even how good he was in college, he surprised me stepping into the Bengals, and the difference that he made from day one was really impressive to me. I mean, obviously stat wise, and he got injured. He didn't have as good a rookie season as Herbert, but I almost feel better just with simply the quarterback situation as the Bengals are right now than the Chargers. They're both in really good spots, but coming off an injury is the only thing. He's not going to play at all next year?
He won't be ready, and he might not play at all.
I didn't even know that. Well, that sucks. I wish that wasn't true. Good luck, Joe.
I didn't fare too bad in the AFC North. I had Baltimore at 11-5 winning the division. They went 11-5. They did not win the division. I said Pittsburgh would go 9-7, won 3 more games than that. The one area where I was really wrong on is I said Cleveland would go 6-10. They ended up going 11-5. That offense just clicked a lot better than I thought it would, and Stefanski did a really good job stepping in there and getting really creative with those play calls and using guys like Chubb and Kareem Hunt into that offense. And then I said Cincinnati would go 4-12, 4-11 with that tie, 4-11-1. I don't really think there's any surprises out of here. I thought Cleveland could be good. I just didn't know if that offense was going to be able to turn the next page.
Yeah, I didn't really know what to expect from this division coming into the season. You had 3 teams that had a lot of buzz behind them. Obviously, the Steelers win the division. The Ravens faltered there for a while, but they showed and proved why they should be in the playoffs. I don't know that you could say the same for the Browns. They were kind of hobbling down the stretch, but Kevin Stefanski, I think, deserves Coach of the Year, and we'll probably get into that later. But after years of not having a decent coach, they finally got one. Baker looked good.
Really good. I think he looked like way better than people thought he was.
I think this is his ceiling, and that's a debate maybe for another time, but I don't see him as much more I see him as a Kirk Cousins type potential.
Sure.
He's not going to go out and win you too many games, but he can manage the game and make some big throws when he has to. The Bengals, like you said, I was really impressed by Joey B. Even Finley at the end, they didn't give up, which was really cool when they beat Finley beat Pittsburgh. That was fun to watch. He looked like he was having a lot of fun. But the Ravens, I think, are the best team in this division currently. They actually allowed the least amount of points in the division, which was surprising. I thought the Steelers would have. But the Ravens, I think, I think they're the best team in this division. And moving forward, I think they probably have the best future.
Very interesting. I agree, though. Moving on to the AFC South. I really like the Colts coming in this year, and they turned out pretty well. I had them at 10-6. How they finished?
11-5.
They finished actually better than I thought they were going to finish. But I had them taking home the division, which they did not. I had the Titans at 9-7. They obviously did better than that by a couple games.
11-5.
But Derrick Henry was way better than I thought he would have been this year. I didn't think he could take the rushing title home 2 years straight. But they are poised heading into a playoffs. They play the Ravens. That'll be a very interesting game, round 1. I had the Texans 8-8 solely because of Deshaun Watson, and apparently solely Deshaun Watson is not enough.
Nope.
They made some interesting moves, and I nailed the Jaguars 1-15 record. Pat on the back. Thank you very much, Trevor Lawrence. I hope you enjoy your home in Jacksonville, and I think the income tax is non-existent there, so enjoy.
For my AFC South, I predicted Tennessee would win the division at 10-6. They finished at 11-5. Houston, I said, would go 9-7. Like Matt said, Deshaun Watson just wasn't enough, and I think it's going to be a really interesting offseason for them. Their star wideout, Will Fuller, will be suspended for the start of the year, and they're also looking for a new head coach and new GM. So it'll be interesting to see how Houston deals with that. And also, if J.J. Watt asks out of there, he was very publicly upset about how the end of the year went down. Phillip Rivers played better than I thought, and the Colts team was good enough where they didn't have to rely on him enough, which I thought was really good, and I wasn't sure how that was going to work out. So I had the prediction that they'd go 8-8, but they obviously outperformed that. But yeah, Trevor Lawrence to Jacksonville will hopefully improve that 1-15 record.
The Titans were a good team this year. Sometimes played down to their competition, which is why they have 5 losses. They obviously weren't a perfect team, but the team I kind of want to focus on was the Colts. Moving forward, and I'd like to get your guys' opinion on this. Just watching Colts games, this is a really hard team to understand. Like, I think at midseason, I thought it was going to be Colts Packers Super Bowl, and obviously that's not looking all that bright. But I don't think Phil Rivers is the answer. Like you said, like he didn't have a bad year or anything, but the man is throwing the ball sidearm. He's clearly like in pain 90% of the time. He's not going to win you games at this point in his career. I think it's time to move on from Phil, and I like a guy like Carson Wentz there. Behind a solid O-line, you have some weapons. You have 3 great running backs when Marlon Mack is back in there. T.Y. Hilton, the emergence of Michael Pittman. They've got a lot of weapons, and I think Carson Wentz would be a great fit there. I don't know about making the money work and all that, but I think the Colts are one quarterback away from going all the way. I mean, I think their defense is legit, and I think their offense is good enough to go pretty far in the playoffs.
That was my main concern, and why I had them at 8-8 was just, could Phillip Rivers perform? And on another side note for the Colts, I think they need to quit with that 3 backs, like rotating him out. Like, give Jonathan Taylor the ball. He showed what he could do at the end of the year. Let him be that main back, and then give Hines or Mack. I'd say get rid of him and then keep another one for like passing down back, because Jonathan Taylor's a real deal.
I think Hines could fit that third down back. Marlon's better. I like Marlon. I think Marlon deserves to go somewhere else and actually play.
What I'm saying, get rid of him and then keep one of them for a third down back.
Yeah, and I have a little. I don't know. This isn't really hot takes. I don't really fully believe it, but I would not be surprised if the Colts beat the Bills this weekend. I can definitely see it happening. Depends on what Bills team. I mean, I guess the Bills have been good like the end of the year, but it depends what Bills team you get to. If anyone out there watched Josh Allen in the playoffs last year, he played not bad, but he didn't have the look. And so to round out my playoff picture for the AFC, I had Ravens, Chiefs, Colts, Bills, Steelers, Broncos, and Titans. So I got 6 out of 7. Pretty well for me. I just had the Broncos in there instead of the Browns. I think I did better than Brady, so I think I win the AFC. Do you have anything to say about that?
Congratulations.
Thank you. All right. Moving on to the NFC. We're going to start in the worst predictor division here, the NFC Beast. I actually put some emojis next to this going because it's so bad. I had the Eagles going 10-6 and taking this division. Obviously, that did not happen. Carson Wentz played worse than he's ever played. The team just wasn't there. The offense was not clicking. The defense was almost worse. I don't really have much to say. They were just a very bad football team this year, and I feel bad because I really like Carson Wentz, and I think, like you said, he'd be good in Indy, or I think in Pittsburgh. I don't think it's going to happen. The money doesn't match up. But or the other thing in Indianapolis, Sam Darnold would be really interesting, I think, there. I think Sam Darnold could be the guy there. But so that I had in second place there, I had the Cowboys coming in at 8-8. What did they finish at? 6-10. A little off there. I think if Dak stays healthy, they're closer to that 500 mark.
Absolutely.
I had the Giants at 7-9. I think I hit that exact 6-10.
Yep.
Okay, they're at 6-10 too. I wish I had that one. And I had the Washington football team at 3-13. I'm sorry, Washington football team, for disrespecting you. Congrats on making the playoffs. This was my biggest miss, or my biggest team that played well that I didn't think was gonna, was the Washington football team.
Yeah, so going off that, I had the Cowboys to win the division at 11-5. I thought it was going to be a huge year for them with a really good receiving core. I think Zeke definitely did not play like Zeke should be playing. They had a lot of injuries at the O-line and obviously at the quarterback position, which costed them a couple wins. I had Washington football team at 3-13, but when I made that prediction, I had the mindset that Dwayne Haskins was going to be the season-long starter, so we can just wipe that away because it was reasonable. And then Alex Smith came in and played really well. I had the Giants going 6-10. They finished at 6-10. I don't think anyone could have seen the crumble of Carson Wentz. I had them going 9-7, but I mean, you can't win when your quarterback's playing like that. And I don't think he's in Philadelphia next year. I know the financials are really hard to get out of, but they're going to find a way. And there's always, you can retain some of that contract. The other team takes part of it. There's always a way to work it out. And with the relationship him and Doug Peterson have formed over the last couple weeks, it's just not going to work out.
So Matt was saying how disgusting this division is. This is actually my favorite division in football. As you guys may remember, the Giants were my second team this year. I was really rooting for them, and then we saw that pathetic performance put on the Eagles when they benched Hurts for Sudfeld and just basically gave away the game. You obviously have to do better than 6-10 if you want to make the playoffs. I completely understand that, but the Eagles kind of gave up. So my hot take was ruined by Doug Peterson. I don't record it as a loss.
That's a loss.
It was just on Doug Peterson.
A loss.
I'm kidding.
Hey, you haven't even hit one yet.
I'm kidding. Anyway, Washington was good. Their defense was lights out. I don't think a lot of people saw that coming. Chase Young was huge for that defense. The Giants, they got outscored 280-357 this season and somehow almost made the playoffs. Danny Dimes, I think, took a step forward, not a huge one, but a step forward. He was okay. That offense isn't very great. So hopefully with Saquon coming back, he'll get a little bit more help. The Cowboys are really interesting to me because they had the best offense in the NFC East. And although that may not mean much, their defense was by far the worst in the NFC East. So if Dak comes back and they just continue to score more points, their defense is still an issue. And that's one that they're going to have to address in the offseason. Hopefully Dak comes back better than ever. Really rooting for the guy. But I think that team has a lot of issues on the defensive side of the ball that Dak just can't fix. And then finally the Eagles, hopefully Jalen's their guy. I mean, they just got to put all the eggs in the basket and just pray to God. Because Carson Wentz got healthy scratched in the last game of the year. He's obviously not happy. He wants to get out of there ASAP. So it's going to be an interesting offseason for all these teams. Hopefully they're all big spenders and address those needs.
One thing I will say, it was kind of interesting, and everyone's like, oh, it worked because they beat the Saints. But it was an interesting decision in a season like this. I know they had a good shot at making the playoffs still. To do that with such a terrible season that you're happening, like if they just roll with Carson Wentz, no matter how bad it is, they can roll in this offseason and have a quarterback competition next camp, which would be, I think, like a little bit better. I mean, I guess they got to see Jalen Hurts in real action, but I think that would have been a better way to go about things to see who you really want as your starting quarterback moving forward. Because now they win Jalen Hurts, now they're going Jalen Hurts. That's really their only option. So I just thought that was a little interesting.
I just wanted to talk about your point about saying Daniel Jones took a step forward. I would completely disagree and say he took a step backwards. I mean, I'm looking at his stats. He played one more game than he did last year, had less yards, less touchdowns by 13. The only thing he improved was throwing 2 less interceptions and had a better completion percentage by 0.8%. I mean, if you're going to say he took a huge step forward by fumbling.
No, well, the big thing with Daniel Jones was his turnover.
He fumbled 18 times last year, 11 times this year. I mean, I still think he took a huge step backward. I mean, that offense for the first 6 games of the year could not score a touchdown. Like, it was a weekly watch of, did the Giants score a touchdown this week? Because they couldn't score. I was really disappointed with Daniel Jones this year, and I think he gets one more opportunity next year. And if he's not playing to a franchise quarterback level, then they might need to move on.
I guess the reason why I don't blame him is for the yards and the touchdowns and all that. The loss of Saquon was obviously huge. I mean, they couldn't run the football whatsoever. Gallman didn't play well like he did, I think, in Saquon's absence last year. And then, Oh, maybe he did, but for some reason, I remember them not being able to run the football. But
there was like a couple weeks where they put in Devonta and then Gallman.
Oh, right, yeah, Devonta. I forgot he was there. But yeah, I just like the big thing with him was he fumbled the ball all of the time, and I just and he was throwing interceptions, just making bad decisions. I don't need like Danny Dimes to be the franchise quarterback. Obviously, that's the hope. But as long as he can kind of right the ship, and I thought he did in the second half of the year, I thought he really improved. Maybe the stats, the yardage, and all that stuff don't back it up, but I think the fumbling was a huge, huge issue that he cleaned up, and the interceptions only 2 less. But still, I don't know. I thought it was a step forward for him.
I think he was stagnant to take the third view. So moving on to the West. I have the Seahawks going 13-3 and taking this division as well as the 1 seed. I believe they ended 12-4. And then I had Russell Wilson, he played like I thought he was going to play for like 6 weeks, and then he stopped doing that. But yeah, but I think he obviously had a good year, just not the MVP season that I was kind of not expecting, but like I saw happening for him this year. I had the Cardinals coming in second at 10-6, and they ended 8-8, missing the playoffs. But they really showed it early in the season. At least Kyler Murray and the defense showed flashes too of what I think they could be. And I think they're a very promising team heading into next year. But I think the thing that really hurt them is whenever Kyler got nicked up, he is like half the player that he was. Because when he like hurt his shoulder, he did not want to run the football, and that's what made their offense dynamic. And that's what they need from him, because that's like pretty much the best thing he can do is run the football. And he's a good passer too, but if he's just sitting back there throwing, afraid to get hit, that's not going to be a good situation for an elite offense, which is what they're going to need going forward to make the playoffs. I had the Rams at 9-7. Is that how they finished? 10-6, one off. But yeah, so they enter the playoffs kind of stumbling over in a backup quarterback battle with the Cardinals. But yeah, their defense is what it is. It's talented. Jalen Ramsey with a great season. Aaron Donald with a great season. Jared Goff with a pretty meh season. Sean McVay was not happy with them. But yeah, and I also had the 49ers missing the playoffs at 7-9, which they did miss the playoffs, which was a pretty good prediction, I guess. I think me and Brady both had it. I mean, they did have a lot of injuries, but they're in the toughest division in football, and I just did not see them making the playoffs this year, which they didn't. But I will give props to Kyle Shanahan for doing what he did with what he had this year. It was pretty amazing to see them still beating a Cardinals team in Week 16 that with Kyler Murray, with freaking like 10 key guys out or something, just ridiculous. Yeah, and I give George Kittle credit for coming back for 2 meaningless games. A lot of guys wouldn't do that. He's a different animal. He came back for the last 2 weeks. I think he was quoted saying he wanted to show everyone what to expect for next year. He wanted to win a couple of games. I guess the only one, but I thought that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, I was pretty spot on with this division as well. I was off by a total of 3 games. I had Seattle going 12-4. They went 12-4. I had Arizona at 8-8. They went 8-8. I had the Rams at 9-7. They ended up getting one more win. And then I had the 49ers going 8-8, and they went 6-10. Touching on the Rams, I think the emergence of Cam Akers at the end of the year was really promising because they kind of had a committee back. But then over the last couple of weeks, Cam Akers really started to step up. For the 49ers, like you mentioned, a lot of injuries. And then the Cardinals, I think I'm not comparing Marcus Mariota and Kyler Murray, but one of the reasons that I think Mariota wasn't able to succeed in Tennessee was because he was always banged up, and that took apart a huge aspect of his game. And I think the Cardinals need to look at that and make sure a priority this offseason is to protect him and keep him healthy, because like you said, he's half the player he is when he's not able to move around, go outside that pocket. I mean, he's not a pocket quarterback. He's a guy that can go outside the pocket and throw it 50 yards downfield like he did in that game. Was that against the Bills, or who was that against? Yeah, so I think it's promising for the Cardinals. The one disappointment I did have on them was just the lack of playing time for Isaiah Simmons. I thought he was one of the most NFL-ready prospects, and he played very sparingly throughout the year.
Yeah, I thought this was – I mean, I obviously didn't do the predictions, but I think this would probably be right around where I predicted. Seattle's defense, they kind of turned it around in the second half. They were one of those defenses that was just atrocious.
It's like they flipped, because it was like the offense was elite, the defense was terrible, and then it was like, oh, the defense is good and the offense is just not clicking.
And then you lose 19-7 to the Giants or whatever it was, or 12-7. So, yeah, the Seahawks win the division. Russell Wilson is that good to carry them, and he's going to have to in the playoffs, I think. DK was a beast this year. He had a really good year. I think he solidified himself as a top 10 receiver in the league. The Rams under Jared Goff, they were okay. Their defense was a lot better than their offense most of the season. Jared Goff was a game manager. I kind of compare him to Baker. I guess that's would be my comparison. Jared Goff or Baker?
I think it's really close.
I think it's Baker because we've seen what we're going to see from Jared Goff. I mean, he's been to a Super Bowl.
That's what I'm saying.
But
he's been to a Super Bowl.
Also. But, that was not him.
I mean, that offense was sick.
Yeah. I guess. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I would say it's close.
Todd Gurley,
yeah. Good Todd Gurley. The Cardinals. So, interesting stat. Kyler Murray is a much better passer when he's outside of the pocket. And like you guys said, if he gets injured and he's not comfortable moving around, that offense is not as dynamic. So, like you said, Brady, they need to protect him a little bit better, although he's out of the pocket all the time, and that's sometimes not the O-lineman's fault if he gets hit. And then the 49ers, what a wash of a season. Super Bowl hangover, but not really because everyone was out. So, tough season to gauge from them. Like you said, good job by Shanahan at least somewhat righting the ship and getting them to 6 wins.
Yeah, and with Kyler, I think he actually is pretty good about protecting his body, but it's just he's kind of fragile. Like when he gets hit, he gets hit.
He's midi.
I know, but maybe he needs to get in that some sort of different weight room program so he doesn't get injured as often or something. I don't know.
Hanging out with the superstar.
Yeah, he needs to get in the weight room with Mike Morris, and he will never get injured. I would agree with that. Going to move on to the South here and end with the North. Following it, I had the Saints going 12-4 and winning the division, and they were 12-4 and won the division. So congrats to me. I had the Bucs at 10-6 in the second. They went 11-5. They struggled against good teams this year, but they did exactly up there. Except Green Bay, they demolished Green Bay. They kicked Green Bay's ass. That was the worst game of the year for Green Bay and the best game of the year for the Bucs. But against all other playoff teams, they struggled. They even lost to the Bears, which was really weird. I don't think that would happen again, but that was a very interesting. No, they don't play. I get that's our hot take though. If Washington wins, we hit a hot take together. So that's what we're rooting for this weekend. I had the Falcons at 6-10 in third place, 4-12, so a little off there. I had the Panthers at 5-11, and I hit that one. Let's go. But Teddy Bridgewater only threw 15 touchdowns this year, something like that. It's around 15 touchdowns, which is lower than I even thought. And I'm not a huge Teddy Bridgewater guy. I thought he did a good job managing that offense there. It's really tough with McCaffrey being out all but 3 games this year. But yeah, so the Saints, we'll see if they choke again in the playoffs. They had a good regular season. Their defense is really good. Drew Brees is what he is. Michael Thomas apparently is back at practice now. He's kind of a shell of his former self, it seems like. I mean, I have no idea. He's still a very good wide receiver, but we'll see what goes on heading into the playoffs. I think Kamara, he'll be good to go, right?
It depends on if they play Saturday or Sunday. If they play Saturday, he can't play. If they play Sunday, he can.
Well, we can find this out. Right, I will look this up as you go.
To the NFC South. So I had Tampa Bay winning the division at 11-5. They won 11-5, but did not win the division. I had New Orleans taking the same record. I was one win off on that one. Atlanta, they just have so many weapons, and I believe in them every year, and they just continue to disappoint. But with some changes in the office there and the potential departure of Matt Ryan and or Julio Jones should mix some things up there. I had Carolina going 4-12. They went 5-11. I don't think Teddy's there next year. I think they go get a different quarterback, add a couple playmakers to that offense to already, a pretty underrated wide receiving core in DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, and Robbie Anderson, who Robbie Anderson had a really quiet, really good year. Like, that kid played really well, which was good to see. But once you get McCaffrey back, he's going to change that offense. And then the backup, not Mike Davis, Rodney Smith, first touchdown of the year, week 17. Hats off to him. Roll the boat, Scotty Ma, go Gophers. But I thought this was a pretty predictable division. I think we knew that Tampa Bay and New Orleans were going to be up there. I think people are sleeping on Tampa Bay. I wouldn't be surprised if they lose that first round, but I think their offense is starting to click a lot better than they have in the past. The only concern is they might have two starting linebackers out for that wild card weekend game. He might. They're not sure
Also,
yet.
the Saints play on Sunday. I'm sure the NFL did that because they don't want to fire out their playoff game.
Yeah. All right. So for the South, this other than the Falcons and the Panthers, I would have flipped them. The Buccaneers, I think, proved something. They were kind of like the Browns. We didn't really know what to expect from them. With Tom Brady's first year in the system, we wanted to see if the defense would play like they did in the second half of last year. They kind of did. And then the Saints, I hate the Saints, but I'm worried about the Saints. I think this team is tremendously overrated.
You see if they're like cap stuff is like
they're almost $100 million over next year.
Do like some crazy stuff.
Like if Breeze retires, they still are over by millions, like tens of millions.
If Breeze retires, they're down. They're from 93 to 63. But if they release him, that only frees up $10 million in camp. So they need to convince him to retire.
Yeah. So that's gonna be a mess. They will be terrible next year. They will be terrible.
Paying them like they should. The guys are getting way too much
money
to play 10 snaps a game.
So yeah, Taysom is probably gonna lead I would think, terrible Saints team next year. So the window's.
I think you bring back Jameis for cheap and just. You got to see what happens.
Right.
Like, you can't have Drew Brees on this team next year, or you won't.
But their defense is still going to – the thing is their defense will be good enough as to where if they get a formidable quarterback play, they'll be contending for the playoffs. But
there won't be a defense. They're going to have to get rid of guys that are already there.
Well, if you look, Drew Brees frees up 30. I think you can get rid of Jared Cook. I think you can get rid of Latavius Murray. There's definitely some Janoris Jenkins on the defense. I think you can get rid of him. Just some older guys that are more expensive that I think can be replaced at a cheaper price.
I think there's going to be some massive overhaul.
There has to
be. They don't make the playoffs next year in my eyes. I don't think it's going to be close either. I think they're going to be pretty bad. And the Buccaneers, like I said, good first year out of Brady. How many touchdowns? 43. Yeah, so he kind of balled out. The Panthers under Bridgewater and Matt Rule. I was really impressed with Matt Rule. I thought he did a great job. Him and Joe Judge as rookie coaches. They were great. And then the Falcons, my God, they started off so poorly with their defense. And then they lost the last 5 games. So they were bad all the way through, but they were competitive. They were kind of like one of those Charger teams where they would stay in games. Yeah, right. So this team, they always have that boomer bust potential. Might be Matt Ryan's last year though in Atlanta. So, He could play again. So yeah, it'll be interesting next year. That division's going to look a lot different. And for the Panthers, McCaffrey back, and that's obviously awesome.
And shout out Young Oku, legendary.
Jeremy Chin,
Yeah, good first season for Jeremy Chin. Respect that guy. I never really heard of him.
Not a good year out of Yitter Gross Matos, like I said.
Draft rankings elite. Okay, moving on to the most important division, the NFC North. Taken home by the Green Bay Packers at 13-3. I actually only had them going 12-4. You know, I was trying to not be biased, but I actually underestimated them. I had the Vikings going 8-8. They ended 7-9. Pretty much were what I thought they were, but their defense was coming along more. Especially the corners were coming along more. It's really tough when all those linebackers are injured at the end of the year. There's not much you can really do about that. I had the Lions going 7-9. What'd they end up at?
5-11.
5-11. Matt Stafford, I expected more out of you. I mean, he still had a decent year, but they just kind of sucked. This kind of Lions way. And I had the Bears at 6-10. They went 8-8, are in the playoffs. So congratulations to the Bears on making the playoffs. Yeah, I really liked the way the Packers played this year. Way better than I thought they were. Aaron Rodgers is all of a sudden back, and I don't know who. If you say you saw this coming, you're lying. The Packers even didn't see this coming. They drafted the future, and I thought it was the end. But yeah, I mean, we talk about them a lot on this podcast as well as the Vikings. I think the Vikings have a bright future on the back end there. Obviously, Harris, right? Like, for sure. That's going to be a hit, but who are they going to have fill in there? They're going to have to get someone or draft someone. So,
at the beginning of the year, the only two safeties in the roster were Harrison and Harris.
Yeah, so hopefully they can get another young guy, and these young guys can grow together into a secondary that is formidable. And the one thing I will say, the Packers, their back end has been phenomenal this year. Jair has really blossomed into who he was. Everyone except for Kevin King has been phenomenal on the back end. Kevin King? I hope so. He sucks. Yeah, because they're not going to be able to pay him. I don't know what money he's going to want because he's been playing terrible. But Savage came out as blossomed this year better than I thought he could have been. Amos was very good. Jair was really good. Chris Barnes, undrafted rookie. Thumbs up to him. I didn't know who that was. He's very good for the Packers this year. It was better than almost any linebacker they've had in the past couple of years. So good season to him.
Unlike Matt, I was brutally biased with my NFC North predictions, and it costed me.
I still had him winning.
Yeah, but I mean, I had the Vikings coming in at 10-6. I had the Packers at 9-7.
The Vikings were favored week 1 in the matchup.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we all know I was wrong on this. Touchdown Detroit. I think Stafford's gone. Unfortunately,
Fortunately for Stafford.
Fortunately for Stafford, yes. But I think the grit that he showed those last couple of weeks, literally not having to play because his team's terrible, but just going out there with a hurt ankle, hamstring, shoulder. I mean, he had like 3 injury designations, but still going out there and competing was awesome to see. For Chicago, I think they franchise tag Trubisky for next year. He played really well at the end of the year, really well. And I just think it's going to be really interesting to see where he goes, if he's able to continue to improve. But touching on Green Bay here for a little bit, I mean, what a year for them. Devontae Adams was unstoppable. Aaron Rodgers looked better than he has in a while. I mean, but I can't sit here on this podcast and not talk about the performance Preston Smith put on this year. I mean, it was flat out admirable. If I was voting for Defensive Player of the Year, he would have my vote. And I'm super excited to watch him in the playoffs. On a more jokingly note, another guy that had a huge impact was Alan Lazard. Huge year out of him. Shout out Alan Lazard for just dropping jaws week in and week out. So not going to say too much on the Vikings. Year's over, on the next.
Yeah, what a crap show this was. The Packers, yeah, they were really good this year. One thing that I thought, and I don't know, I wasn't watching too many Packers games down the stretch, but when early in the year when the Vikings beat them, the one thing that was said was this run defense is non-existent. You're not really hearing that anymore because they locked up the 2,000-yard rusher in Derrick Henry for the most part. They really shored up their run defense, which I thought was really impressive. And obviously they needed to do that going into their playoffs because that was their one glaring weakness. They had a really good year. Devontae Adams, just a pretty historic year. Rodgers, same thing. MVP Rodgers this year. The Bears, they're not good. Like, they went 5-1 off of turnover luck, and then won 3 games in their last 12 or so. This team is terrible, but like you said, Mitch turned it around at the end of the year. I agree. You franchise tag him. Try to dump Foles because he's pretty expensive. Then moving on to the Vikings, we had Michael Pierce sit out. Barr was out for the year. Kendrick's out towards the end of the year. 2 new DB starting corners. The defense was expectedly bad. The offense was really good, actually. And hopefully, that's something we can build on going into next year. As long as the offense stays healthy and consistent like they were all year, I think the Vikings will be in a good place next year. Michael Pierce back will be awesome to shore up the D line. Daniil Hunter, I didn't even mention him, our best player on defense. And then the Lions, get Stafford the hell out of there. He is suffering, like he's running for his life. And he's low-key been one of the best quarterbacks of the decade. So I hope he gets out of there and they can just blow up the franchise and start anew.
Just one thing I wanted to add in there. I think the Bears need to lock up Allen Robinson this offseason, but I don't know if they'll be able to. I think he's a really good wide receiver. B, from what I've heard and seen, he has great veteran leadership, and I think that's going to be huge for Trubisky to get that opportunity to prove himself, because I think if you take away their best receiver and then say, all right, Trubisky, this is your last chance, and then give him a wide receiving core of Anthony Miller and Darnell Mooney, I don't think that is going to put him in the best situation. So I think you need to find a way to pay him, but I don't think Allen Robinson's going to want to come back.
Also, goodbye, Aaron Jones. He's got to go.
Oh, Aaron Jones is gone. Long gone.
Yes.
Oh, and sorry about Bakhtiari's ACL.
Yeah, we'll give a shout out to. Well, he told Devontae to go win the Super Bowl for him. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, I mean, he said it. I feel if there's one guy in the Packers I think deserves to play in a Super Bowl that hasn't, it's him. So it's kind of sad.
The Packers more than anyone I know, and I agree with that statement.
He's the one guy that deserves it.
And he just got his bag. And
yeah, well, it's good that he got his bag before he got injured. I guess good for him, but it's just it's a sad situation with him. On a real note, like all seriousness, all jokes aside, Preston Smith has played much better down the stretch. Much better. I saw a stat after Zadarius bought him a car for Christmas. His stats have been way up. They've been way up. Maybe he just needed some little kick in the butt. He's been listening to the podcast. Obviously, Preston is out there listening. Obviously, that'll be our first award. Obviously, the Huddle Player of the Year is Preston Smith. Congratulations. Congratulations, Preston. So now we're going to move on. We're just going to vote on the MVP, Offense Player of the Year, Defense Player of the Year, O-Roy, D-Roy, and that'll wrap up our show for tonight. But, so you guys get us started, Brady?
Yeah, so MVP. Are we going to talk about our predictions, or are we going to do that later?
Oh, we can say what we predicted.
Okay, so I predicted Russ at the beginning of the year. Halfway through the season, it looked that way, but I don't think there's any arguing that Aaron Rodgers deserves it this year.
Rodgers for sure. Probably Josh Allen number 2, actually.
Yeah,
he turned up at the end of the year, and then Mahomes at 3.
Yeah, I got Rodgers too. I had Russ at the beginning of the year also, but I'd probably put top 5 Rodgers, Allen, Mahomes, Henry, and Devontae even at 5. I think needs to at least get his name mentioned in this conversation, even though he obviously doesn't have a shot.
Yeah, I agree. Offensive Player of the Year, beginning of the year, I went with a different strategy and voted for 2 quarterbacks for MVP. And Offensive Player of the Year, I said Dak. He obviously went down, but was having a really good season before he went down. I mean, he was throwing for 500-yard games, at least once I know. But my Offensive Player of the Year is another Green Bay Packer and Devontae Adams. I mean, he didn't even play the whole season, and the stats he put up were just insane. So I think the Packers take home 2 pieces of the main hardware.
Yeah, I'm going to give my offensive player of the year to Derrick Henry. It's not very often that you're going to see guys rush for over 2,000 yards. I think the last one was AP in his MVP season. You're just not seeing guys running for 2,000 yards anymore. It's kind of a thing of the past, and for him to do that and carry that Tennessee Titans offense, make Ryan Tannehill look really good, don't put a lot of pressure on him. I think he deserves it. Although, shout out Devontae, what a year! Like, that's insane, and I think it's close, and either of them are deserving.
I agree. I think Devontae definitely is right up there with these guys. I think go with them, but unbelievable the numbers he put up, being out 2.5, 3 weeks, whatever it was. I also went Derrick Henry, 2,000-yard rusher, can't be overlooked in this category. If this happened 10 years ago, he'd be the MVP. Or if it happened on a year when there wasn't an obvious quarterback, he'd be the MVP. Also, I think needs to be at least mentioned Travis Kelsey. I think Travis Kelsey had a phenomenal year. And as a tight end, I guess you don't really get mentioned very much in this category, but he was up there in yards, and he scored a lot of touchdowns for that Chiefs team. Obviously, Mahomes throwing the ball, but phenomenal year from those guys. But the huddle approved, I guess, with a 2-1 vote. Derrick Henry is Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't think Derrick Henry shouldn't win it. I just think that the way Devontae played down the stretch was unreal. For Defensive Player of the Year, I really think this should be unanimous with Xavier Howard. I mean, 10 interceptions. He is such a force on that Miami defense. A really great player. I think he's one of the top cornerbacks in the league. Really fun to watch. He was coming off an injury last year, and just to come out and perform the way he did, I thought was really, really fun to watch.
Yeah, I haven't put too much. I haven't looked at Defensive Player of the Year too much, so I'm going to give it to Myles Garrett. 12 sacks this year for the Cleveland defense. He played really well. Xavier Howard, he had a great year as well. But that Browns defense, they had a lot of injuries early on in the year. Denzel Ward, their cornerback out of Ohio State, hardly played. There was a lot of other positions where they were lacking some guys, and Myles Garrett really stepped up. He missed a few games and still had a phenomenal season, and was a large part of why the Browns ended up making the playoffs.
I ended up also going with Xavier Howard. I think Aaron Donald needs to be discussed here with second in the league in sacks. 13.5, just second to TJ Watt. I think I predicted him as the Defensive Player of the Year, but 10 interceptions hasn't happened since whatever I saw it the other day, 07, whatever it was, a long time ago. And Xavier Howard, second highest graded corner. So his coverage is obviously good. He wasn't just ball hawking, going off his responsibilities as a corner. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Howard as well. Phenomenal year, Xavier, and congratulations.
Huddle Podcast, Defensive Player of the Year. Offensive Rookie of the Year, there's definitely be a lot of conversation in this one. I know you guys will hit on it, so I'll just give my pick right away. Justin Jefferson broke the rookie wide receiver yards record. I know Herbert broke the touchdown record. If I wasn't a Viking fan and I didn't love Justin Jefferson the way I do, I'd probably go with Justin Herbert just because of the situation he was thrown in. Was named the starting quarterback, week 3 or something? Yeah, 10 minutes before the game, wasn't even planning on going out there. And then to just go and perform the way he did, I thought was really awesome. But I got to give it to Justin Jefferson to step in and fill in the spot that was voided by Stephon Diggs, and to play the way he did was really exciting to watch. And also taking the league by storm with the gritty.
Which is not great.
I'm going to go this one's tough. I'm probably going to go Jefferson as well. Anytime you're the best rookie at any position of all time, I think you deserve the award. Herbert was phenomenal, and like you said, a tough situation to be thrown into, but he made the most of it and was the best quarterback in this draft class so far. But Justin Jefferson, he didn't even play 2 games really, or didn't start. And then he came out and put on a show all year. I think he's deserving of it, but I'm not mad if they pick Herbert.
I think they're both deserving too. But like you said, the best player, rookie ever at the position, I think Herbert might be the best rookie quarterback ever, stats wise. Right. I mean, is there a better one that I'm missing?
The thing is he broke Baker's record for most touchdowns by quarterback, and that was only 2 years ago.
Well, the thing is with rookie quarterbacks, usually like until like recent, like they didn't like play like this. Like this is not how it worked.
Right, but Baker's like that was recent. Baker was surely not the best quarterback of all, like the best rookie quarterback.
Who's better? Like that's if someone out there like has someone like I don't like rookie like Peyton Manning had a terrible rookie season. A lot of these guys that are really good had terrible rookie. Brett Favre didn't start. Brett Favre didn't play. Like all these legendary quarterbacks, a lot of them didn't play their rookie years. Like I don't know who would have a better one. I think I'm gonna have to go with Herbert. I think it's very close. I wouldn't mind either one, just like you guys. But Justin Herbert obviously did break the touchdowns record, and he was winging the ball all over the field and just kind of a quiet guy. I didn't expect him to step in and everyone to trust him like they did. Yeah, so we're really just checking now to see.
Cam had a really good rookie year.
So Cam Newton, all these are recent guys. Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott, Ben Roethlisberger. I'd probably say, yeah, I think statistically Herbert had the best ever. But also statistically, Justin Jefferson had the best ever. It's very, very tight race here. Honestly, I could see him. Can they do co?
Yeah, they did.
They did. What was it?
It was like Barry Sanders.
I'd do co. I'd do co. But I'll vote for Herbert for the sake of this. But Justin Jefferson is the Huddle approved Offensive Rookie of the Year. Congratulations. But yeah, I'd like to see a co. Actually, I think they both are well deserving of it.
Yeah, I think when we look back at the awards, we got one more here, but the Offensive Rookie of the Year and the Offensive Player of the Year, like we said, I really wouldn't be mad if it was, either Tay Adams or Derrick Henry or Justin Jefferson or Justin Herbert. Those guys are all very deserving. But for Defensive Rookie of the Year, I said it was going to be Antoine Winfield at the beginning of the year. He played very well this year. It's obviously hard for a safety to win Rookie of the Year. I think he did all he could to do it. Really solidified that back end for Tampa Bay. But I think at the end of the day, it comes down to Chase Young. He came as advertised, came into the NFL. One thing that I didn't think that people thought we would see was his leadership. I think his leadership on the sidelines and on the field was just something that the Washington football team should be very excited about because they have a leader and a guy you can build around on that defense. And it's not often you get a guy that you can build around on a defense, especially, coming right out of college like that.
Yeah, I'm going to give it to Chase Young as well. He was my midseason pick as well, just to make us feel bad about ourselves. He is 21 years old. We are all that or around that age, and he is a freak of nature. He had 7.5 sacks this year, four forced fumbles. Holy smokes. He balled out, and he was one of the big reasons why Washington's in the playoff. I think I saw something like the number 2 pick if you're a defensive player going after a quarterback, and that's kind of a out there stat, but a lot of the times they end up making the Hall of Fame. And honestly, Chase Young is well on his way to doing that. I think he had a great rookie year, and I think he's just going to be a phenom in the league for years to come.
Yeah, and I forgot to say my offensive rookie of the year at the beginning of the year was Jonathan Taylor, and he finished 3rd in the league in rushing. Really, I mean, a lot of years he's winning it, but obviously this year not even close. I had Chase Young at the beginning of the year. I have Chase Young now. We had Chase Young at the middle of the year. I think the one that really hit me was before the year. Someone said this guy's a Hall of Famer coming out in the draft class, and I was like, he kind of looks like it. And he for sure played like it his rookie year. Obviously, he's not playing like a Hall of Famer, but for a rookie, it was pretty unbelievable. And like you said, he's a big reason why they're even in the playoffs. And at least the quote Mike Tomlin said, he said, "I don't ever want to be bad enough where I can get a guy like you," which is very very good compliment coming from a coach like Mike Tomlin. Yeah, so that's pretty much all I got. You guys got anything? Wrap us up here.
Pat just mentioned it earlier. I think Kevin Stefanski deserves Coach of the Year. The things he's been able to do with that offense that Freddie Kitchens and the previous 20 other coaches couldn't do. So props to him. It was tough to see him leave the Vikings, but good to see him go find success for another team as a first-time head coach.
I didn't do a Coy, but like I said, I'd like to talk about Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan should get considered. I don't think he should win it. I don't know who should win. I haven't really looked into it that much. But Kyle Shanahan winning 6 games, but unbelievable injuries on that team. Unbelievable. And they were competitive in a lot of the games that they lost. I just really like what he did there. Also, I think LaFleur should be mentioned, going 13-3 in his first 2 years. Pretty ridiculous, especially after coming off a year in the Packers missed the playoffs easily. Yeah, so I guess I'm gonna throw my vote for, I don't know. I'll throw my vote for LaFleur. I think he's definitely got a real case to win it. I don't think he will. I wouldn't be mad if he didn't, but I'll throw my vote out there for him.
All right, so I think that just about does it for us. Go follow us on Twitter at the Huddle Pod. We have a podcast coming out. We're gonna record it at least tomorrow. We're gonna do a playoff preview. Give us we're probably gonna run through our brackets and see who I think will end up in the Super Bowl. And yeah, so you'll be hearing from us soon, and thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you to all the listeners all year. It's been a blast. I can't believe it's over already, the regular season, but boy, am I excited for the playoffs. Yeah, I mean, this season always goes way too quickly. I wish there was football all year long. That would make life way better. But here we are at the end of the season. It's kind of emotional, but all right. Signing off for now. We'll be back with some